Raider.
Welcome to the Blue Ballers podcast. It's been a long time again since we last did one of these, but there's a good reason for it. It's because you've been doing your exams, so you've been studying, and it's kind of been convenient because we've not faced the best of times the last few weeks, and it kind of got topped off today. Before I kind of get into that, but it's been very difficult to watch our team lately. It's not been easy. Everything's been out of sync. Nothing sort of made sense. I've been calling for logic ball to take place, which is simply playing players where they play best and getting results. But none of that has happened, and it's been extremely frustrating. It started, I think, when we lost against Arsenal. I felt there potentially should be a change because there's a big season ahead of us. You know, the most important games of our season are ahead of us, and you know, we've just hit a point where it sort of started to come apart, and it became more and more obvious that Frank Lampard has hit his ceiling as a manager and as Chelsea head coach. It was reported this morning at about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, that Frank will be sacked by the club. And it happened. They announced Frank's sacking. We even got a personal note from the owner, Roman Abramovich, which was a nice touch. It showed that it meant more than just a sacking for a manager. It was for someone that is so closely affiliated with the club. But I think what needed to be done has been done, and there's been a lot of reaction to that. Firstly, what do you think of the situation as it stands? Frank Lampard is no longer our manager.
I didn't want him to leave for quite some time, and this was actually quite a surprise because I thought he would have more time to really get the team together and get some results, but it's come quite quickly, and apparently it was decided, I think maybe probably shortly after the Leicester game. So I thought that he would have more time, so it's quite abrupt, but
it is go on.
But no, it's down to the board really. If they feel that he can take them if he can take the team any further or not. So if they felt that he can't, then that's their decision to make.
Mm-hmm. I felt post Leicester, the sort of things that he was saying, he wasn't throwing the players under the bus, but I think he was alluding to the fact that players weren't ready to compete. They weren't ready to commit to a game plan whereby they had to work hard and they had to do certain things tactically to carry out his plan to win against them. Leicester obviously are a very good side at the moment. They're firmly in top 4 contention like they were last season. But it was the sort of game where you saw, okay, this must be the end, because it won't get any better than this. At this point, it's not going to suddenly pick up and the season gets turned around. It looked like a performance that was delivered by a man that knew he was getting sacked, and I don't think it was particularly the Leicester game. I think it was any game between now and the end of the season is when they would have pinpointed that and said, it's not good enough, we need a change, and we need a change now. The only thing I would say about that is they could have done it after Leicester. They could have used Luton as a sort of game to give the players a sort of period to adjust, and if they were able to, as reported today, it's going to be Thomas Tuchel that comes in, which I'm very happy about, but it could have given him a bit of time to get in and adjust and understand the roots of our current dressing room. But they didn't do that. They did it post Luton, which was a really good result, a lot of really good performance as well. Through to the next round of the FA Cup. But overall, it just seems like it was bound to happen. Whether it was now, whether it was in a month's time, and it's not because he wasn't able to get these players together. The new signings and all that. It looks like it was because he's hit his ceiling as a manager tactically, and on the touchline in his in-game management. It just looked like he reached a place where he didn't know what else to do. And at an elite club, where the expectations are sky high, you need to be a bit better than that. And which is very strange, because I think when we saw him last season, he was changing things. He was changing the formation, the way we were playing, either long balls or build up, slow build up or whatever. But this season, it seemed very rigid. It seemed like, he had one way of wanting to play, and it almost reminded me of Sarri, where he would stick to that 4-3-3 and use the same players week in, week out. Of course, we didn't do that. Obviously, Lamps had rotated and he brought in Hudson-Odoi and all that, but overall, it just didn't seem like something he was ready to compromise. He wasn't ready to change anything about this team to get results. It was about having high performance levels in this formation, in this style. And I don't know, it just I'm really confused, and more than anything, I'm confused as to how any of this has happened, because it all seems so promising at the start. At the back end of last season, okay, we lost against Bayern really badly, but there was still a lot to be positive about coming into this season with the new signings and all that. But he went with that 4-3-3 with the two high number 8s. Obviously, we had injury issues, so he obviously played Timo Werner out wide. But overall, it wasn't about any of these little things. It was about the bigger picture of what's more important, the performances or the results. And for me, I mean, I know we spoke a few weeks ago about like the team's performance levels and all that, but we were outperforming everyone on XG, on possession, on shots on target, pass accuracy. So our stats were up there. We weren't performing like a bad team. We weren't performing bad enough to suggest this manager is not good enough. But it's really confusing, because he's taken it so far and yet he's not helped himself in this situation. So how do you sort of balance that, where you have an idea of how your team want to play, but you have to deliver?
It's quite tough, to stay faithful to your plan, your master plan, and at the same time have to get results, especially if the team is not on its best form. Because we had that really good run where the team was on form, and we were sticking to that 4-3-3, which we had newly discovered, as a main formation to stick to. But then it was, as I even said it before as well, when if things stop working, then change it. I think that was when we had Werner on the left and Tammy in the middle. But we just started to get bad results towards the end of it, and we stuck with a 4-3-3. So
yeah,
that's just where it went all downhill. So I think that's the point where he needed to change things up, and focus on what's the best way to work against an opponent. And he's probably done that, but I think there's just been many different issues that has come along the way that has just not worked out in his favour.
Honestly, I can't for the life of me understand why he didn't change things when they needed to be changed. And okay, you have Klopp and Guardiola, who are quite married to the idea of 4-3-3 or 4 at the back. But a lot of talented managers, they know when to switch formation. They know when something is not working. They know when the chemistry is off. They know when the opponent has sussed you out and worked out how you function in this. And like I said, Klopp and Guardiola are probably the only two managers who teams probably can't come up against and overthrow their, I wouldn't say rigid tactics, but practice tactics, and sometimes you have to just tip your hat to them and say, okay, cool, you've developed your players to a point that they'll continue playing this formation and they'll continue winning games because they are so comfortable going and coming, and their movement is so top class that they'll constantly create, and they'll obviously keep a lot of clean sheets. But I don't think Lampard's at that point right now. He's 3 years into his managerial career, and it felt like he was trying too hard at something that he's not qualified for yet. We saw him last season against Tottenham, where he went through at the back, and it was away at Tottenham, and we smashed them 2-0. We pulled off one of the best wins for me in the last decade, switching to that 3-4-3 for that game. And then the very next week, or a couple of weeks later, we were at Arsenal away, and he started the game with 3-4-3 again. It didn't work, and he hooked Emerson off before half-time, got Jorginho on, and we went on to win that game. So it showed he was ready to be tactically flexible, and he understood how to set a team up in those formations. And this was before guys like Anthony Barry and all that. So that it was something that him and Jody Morris were Jody Morris obviously has also left the club after the club decided to sack Frank. So it's all very confusing as to why it's come to this point, and why we're having to talk about Lampard getting sacked, because I didn't want him to get sacked. But I believe he really did bring it on himself, and if he had changed a couple things, it could have been a very different conversation.
I mean, in the last few games, not few games, in the last 2 games, we've seen 4-4-2 being played. So I don't know if he was now ready to change it up and try something new to get the best out of the likes of Timo Werner, and even Billy Gilmore was introduced as well in this last game.
And Mason obviously started the game a lot deeper against Luton, against Leicester. So there was signs of him almost sort of changing things. I think Leicester was probably the nail in the coffin. It probably took him he probably got to it too late. By the time he realised that that's not going to work, and he figured out a new formation, it was already done.
And it's really unfortunate because it seems just a bit premature now, because you really believe that he could maybe just have sparked something new with this new formation that we've been playing. So
it did seem like he was about to turn over and change his ideas. I think also, it's difficult because you're leaving out Kai Havertz, who I feel doesn't really fit into that 4-2-3-1. He's such a talented player, and he has played several formations. It's just that if he's not playing number 10 in a 4-2-3-1, there's very few other places he can play. I mean, I wouldn't have him on the wing. I wouldn't have him in midfield. So it did become a bit difficult to envision how that would go, that 4-2.
Would you have him up front in that kind of formation where him and Werner can play off each other?
Honestly, I think I prefer Tammy in that role, and not just Tammy, but guys like Haaland, big guy, even Giroud, who I feel are more become more target men. Mm-hmm. They sort of use that role to either supply the players around them, or they become a target man in the box, to get on the end of crosses and all those. So, I think it would have worked well if we had persisted with it. It would have meant that I think Havertz would have had a lot less minutes. But in terms of our objectives, our performances on paper were great, but the results just weren't there. And it's difficult to say if we had continued with him, it would have changed, because, at what point do you pull the trigger, or what point do you realize as a club that, okay, right now it's a risk, keeping him on is going to risk us making top four, which means there are going to be financial implications. Our pool for players next summer will be very, very low, because I can't imagine the top players, the Timo Werners and Kai Havertz is joining a Europa team. And we're obviously after players like Haaland and Donnarumma, who obviously won't touch a Europa League team. So it's difficult to sort of predict what could have happened, but I think that the sort of the haste was because of his status at Chelsea. I think there's no doubt about that. I think if it was any other manager, it would have been done in December. And I think they would have brought in someone like Lampard in January to fix this team and to get them going for the second half of the season. It's just not worked out that way. And it's unfortunate, but it's football. You have to accept, these kind of moments as fans. Because not everything will go your way. Not everything will happen the way you want it to, because there's a lot more involved, on the at a different level, that if we want to continue enjoying Chelsea and enjoying Chelsea in the Champions League and signing top players, we have to ensure that we're making top four. We have to ensure that we're winning big trophies. There's no doubt about it. So for us to sit here and say, the club should have kept stuck with Lampard because it could have changed, his formation could have changed something, it's too big a risk. And I can understand fully why they've done it now, but it's just unfortunate. Like some of the reaction to it it's been so mixed. Like on social media, especially, I think social media is the only place you can sort of get proper reaction these days. But a lot of Chelsea fans that didn't want him to go because they believe we owe it to him, because as a player, obviously he gave us everything. So in these sort of times, we should be doing the same for him. And I get that, I understand that. And then there's the other side who kind of had enough, and they saw. It's so difficult to see it.
I think it's because it's fresh that it will, all the emotions will boil. But when it comes down to it, it's not goodbye forever. It's not farewell. It's just see you next time. I'm sure it'll be until next time.
Yeah.
So I'm not too upset by that, because I know he's Chelsea through and through. So I expect to see him again sometime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think some fans understood, it wasn't his time to manage us beyond this point, which I agree with.
He joined Chelsea at a time when I don't think any other manager would have joined, having a transfer ban. Mm-hmm. And only pretty much the youth level players.
Yeah, but I mean, the hunger was there. The ambition to succeed was definitely there
from his side, from his side for sure, and that's why
from both sides. From both sides, I think the club really wanted him to succeed as well. I think he was brought in for a purpose, and that was one to rebuild the relationship between the fans and the club, which I felt was very disconnected. After Conte, after Conte, it was there was a clear discord between the fans and the club, and then I think having Sarri made it even worse, because I don't think he sort of appreciated them the way they wanted to be appreciated. That's the fans I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But he got us playing really good football towards the end. He won us a trophy. He obviously joined Juventus, so there was a real damage left over the last few years since I think probably Mourinho left. It became a thing of, okay, now we've got Conte, we have this guy that we love, and he's successful, and he's dynamic and has charisma, so let's enjoy him. And then we got taken away, and then that's what I'm saying, there was so much damage caused between those years, and Frank sort of came in and just brought everyone together.
Yeah.
And we all knew full well this wasn't a guy that had huge pedigree as a manager. We knew what he was about as a player, but it's so different, obviously, as many players find out quickly, being a manager and being a player. But the way he came in and just brought this team together and the club together, the fans and the board and everything sort of was moving in a positive direction, and it was just so crucial. You know, if we are successful for the next 10 years, it's because of the foundation that he laid. He came in and laid. And you can't give him enough credit for that. It was really... no one could have done it. No one could have done what he did. And he definitely served that purpose. And then the second thing that he did was not just bring in youth players, but create a bridge between the academy and the first team, which for a long time was non-existent. There were so many talented players in our academy who went out on loan, proved themselves, and then we sold them for a profit. And that was sort of, we got used to that. We saw glimpses of really talented players and then sold, you know, and we never got to see them in a Chelsea shirt. And you know, on some level, you like to believe that one of them are good enough for Chelsea. And as soon as Lamps comes in, we see 5 of them. You know, it's like, it's unheard of from our side to see those many players get an opportunity. And it wasn't an opportunity to get 10 minutes off the bench to get himself, you know, a Chelsea cap. It was to be a first teamer. It was to compete with first team players. And they broke in and they made it their own. And, you know, that is solely down to Lampard and Jody Morris and Joe Edwards. So, you know, I think he achieved objectives. But like I said, you know, he could only go so far as a tactician, as a manager.
Yeah, I think he's done exactly that. He's come in at a time when I think no one else would have dared to have done it, and the job he's done has been fantastic at doing those 2 things, as you've said. I don't think any other manager would have been able to deal with a transfer ban, and then through this whole COVID crisis as well, the way he's dealt with it, you know, I think he's done it exceptionally well. But the results, you know, are the results at the end of the day, and it just hasn't gone in his favor towards the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously from his statement as well, it seemed like quite a formal statement. It didn't seem one that he sort of hand wrote, but from his statement you could tell he was disappointed to not be able to take the team forward, in his own words. He felt, you know, there was room for improvement, you know, with him. I mean, of course he would say that, and of course he would think that and believe that, and of course we would want that to happen. It's just, generally speaking as well, I find it difficult to blame the board for a lot of decisions that they make, because I feel if you're the most successful football club in England for the last 16 years, how can you question the board? How can you question their ways? They've obviously got a strategy, a method for every situation. And if Tuchel is, you know, a failure, if he fails at Chelsea, fair enough. But you know, it's hard to see them fail, you know, getting this decision wrong.
Yeah. I hope for the board's sake that they have made that tough decision of sacking Frank in favor of a much better tactical manager. At least experienced manager. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think there's so much more we can say about Frank, but you know, it's unfortunate, but it's the business, it's the way things go. But I'd like to talk a bit about Thomas Tuchel, who, I mean, it's all but confirmed at this point. Thomas Tuchel will be the next Chelsea manager. He arrives after getting sacked by PSG a month ago. Didn't have a good start to the season, and they, the sporting director Leonardo didn't see eye to eye with him, so they parted ways. They parted company. But this is a guy with huge pedigree, both in the Bundesliga and in Ligue 1, and in also the Champions League. He's renowned for being able to develop and improve players of all ages. And he seems like a real, I don't want to say this in the wrong light, but he looks like a proper geek the way he talks about football. He looks like he's obsessed with the game. And I'm a absolutely huge fan of him. I think it's hard to compare managers to Guardiola, but I think he's the closest to Guardiola we have in football right now.
Really?
Yeah. I followed his journey at Dortmund. Not so much at PSG, but I know that he got on really well with the players at both clubs. He is quite high maintenance in that, he does sort of demand quite a lot from clubs. And you can see that with PSG's current squad. It's not up to par with recent squads. So he obviously wanted to improve them. Mm-hmm. And the same at Dortmund as well. That it's they sort of think he's got the Italian sort of persona for a manager, but he's very much Bundesliga in his instincts and in his ways of attacking. And he's self-confessed Guardiola admirer. So I think we're getting a damn good manager.
I have a question. The squad that we have right now, do you think it's well suited to the type of football that Tuchel wants to play?
It's absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. He's very, very dynamic in his approach. He likes to be innovative and creates small passages of play during a game through different players. It's not the same stuff over and over again, so you're not going to see an overkill of crossing or long balls or whatever. It's quick, very quick passing, quick movement. The thing between Lampard and Tuchel, I think, will be the difference is that Tuchel comes with a lot of experience on how to train players. Mm-hmm. Right? He knows what will stimulate a player. He knows what will get them to understand that level of tactical information. And I think at this point, it's such a young squad. If they can really take to Thomas Tuchel and understand him as a manager, they'll be getting an education from one of the finest tacticians on the planet. And when I say he's as close to Guardiola, more than anyone, I really, really, truly, once he comes in and he starts doing things, I think people will realize how seriously good this manager is. It's his only downfall and his only flaw is that he has quite a explosive personality. He doesn't get along with boards that well, which I can see being a factor. When things go bad, he's definitely going to get himself the sack. There's no two ways about it. Okay. So yeah,
the way that the board have been recently, with spending so much as well in the summer, mm-hmm. Wanting to revamp the squad, do you think that it'll be an issue anytime soon? The sort of players that they're looking to bring in, the approach that they're having towards getting first choice targets.
Yeah, I mean, it really is dependent on where we are in 6 months. We need to, see which players are staying, which ones are going. Inevitably, there are going to be players that are disappointed with Tuchel, being left out and stuff. It's because not everyone can play. And obviously, he's got 6 months to sort of turn the season around, so he's not going to want to change a lot. I'm sure he has his ideas about what he wants to do, but I think those can probably only be implemented if we have a proper pre-season, and he has a bit of time to work out what goes where. But I think, what was your question?
It was to do with the board, more proactive now. Yeah. Possibly it would be less That's
Yeah,
what I worry about with them and Tuchel.
I think it's the build up that the building that we did over the last 6 months, the signings that we made, it will prevent Tuchel from being too disappointed with our squad. I think we have a fantastic squad. I can't stress it enough. It's really, we've got a player that for every sort of need. We have players from midfield that can score. We have defenders that can, keep clean sheets and contribute goals, and fullbacks that are crossing, and strikers that are scoring goals. So aerial goals and behind defenders and stuff like that. We've got players for every necessity. So I can't see Tuchel needing or wanting, a whole bunch of new players. I think if he wants to get someone, I think he'll see eye to eye with the board on them, because I think the sort of players that he likes are very much in line with the sort of players we sign. Young, quick, dynamic, hungry, aggressive. Those are the sort of players that we have right now. So I think it's a really good fit. And apparently he has been he's been attracted to the Chelsea job for a long, long time, beyond 2017, because he believes that we run our club to his taste, the way a football club should run. And when I compare ourselves to any other club in England, I wholeheartedly agree, because we are standout performers in every competition when it comes to Champions League or Premier League or whatever. We just seem to be proactive in improving our squad specifically to a manager's needs. We don't buy trash. We buy talented players, and then if it doesn't work out, we manage to recoup the fees, because we know that those are talented players. And Tuchel, as a manager, he won't go for players that are of any less standard than what we want. So if we go for a new player, say if we go for Haaland, you can bet your bottom buck this guy is going to get Haaland scoring 100 goals a season. Easy. He's gonna make sure every signing that we make will be the same, will sort of suit his needs as well. And I really believe it can work if everyone's just sort of patient and understands that this isn't going to happen overnight. And I know that you can't ask for much, from Chelsea for that. It can be a really good relationship, and we can really, I think, once the dust settles of Frank's departure, we can start to appreciate how good Tuchel is as a manager. I'm really itching to see him in full-fledged action, honestly. He's so good and he's so talented, and I can't wait for everyone to watch him.
I really want to compare the way that we are playing now compared to the next few months. Whenever it's set in, his play style set in, just see the difference and compare and just find out how much experience can really change a team.
Yeah, I think it's if Frank, for me, Lamps would have still been here if he brought in someone with a bit of experience, with a bit of know-how about how do you manage these young players, how do you get them to play a certain style or certain way, or get them to do new things in training. But I just don't think he had that. He had Joey Morris and Joe Edwards and Anthony Barry. I just don't think that's enough. I think you need a sort of older head, someone that's been through a lot of football. And I just, I believe that was his downfall. But I think with Tuchel, he's 47. So he's been around the block. He's been in management for a long time. I really would love to refer people to this video that I saw of him. He was talking at a convention, and it's like a 45-minute video. He talks in German, but there's English subtitles. I'll put it in the bio of this video. And the way he speaks about not just football, but also lifestyle and things that athletes do to be at the top of their games, things like diets and sleeping and well-being, all those kind of things. It's really, you can see that he's he thinks so much more than just 4-4-2 or 4-3-3. He really understands the requirements of an elite athlete. And, you know, when I say he's a geek, I really, you know, he's really a geek in that he's so educated and he's so well read on sports, not just football. And to have someone like that come in and educate our young boys, guys like Kai and Mason and Timo and you know, Reese and Tammy, it will be priceless. The education they get from him will be priceless. And, you know, I'll go back to it again. He's really the closest thing to Guardiola in football right now. And we will soon see that. We will soon see a complete change in mentality, in attitude, in aggressiveness, in composure, and just the ability to go step onto that pitch and know you're going to win a game. We haven't felt that in a long time. I haven't felt consistently that, okay, we're going to win the next game and the next game and the next game. And then we got Man City, we're going to win that one. Then Liverpool, we're going to win that one. I haven't had that in a long time. And I think with Tuchel, if he can coach these boys properly, if they really take to him, it can be really, you know, top class. The result can be really top class.
Yeah, I hope that too. I think that we definitely have the squad that can achieve that.
Yeah.
So why not the manager too? When do you think he's going to come in now? When do you think he's going to be announced? Maybe tomorrow?
Yeah, I think we've got Wolves on Wednesday. So they're hoping that he's obviously not been in football, so he has to quarantine for 5 days.
Okay.
But apparently he can join the Chelsea bubble for training and for matches only, which is a good sign if he tests negative on the PCR. So hopefully that's all fine. And we've got Wolves at home, so that's a bonus that we have him at home. Mm-hmm. And hopefully we get to see him on the bench on Wednesday.
Hopefully. Can't wait.
Yeah.
I can think of one player that would love to see him back. I would love to see him at Chelsea, and that's Pulisic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Pulisic, Kai, Timo, Rudiger, I think these four are probably buzzing to see him and to work with him. I think Rudiger is going to be quite an interesting one. I think Zuma will probably get dropped. I have a feeling he's going to get dropped for Rudiger, and he's going to go forward with Thiago Silva and Rudiger. I mean, I can't see him changing too much to start with because it's difficult to get players playing certain tactics and stuff. I think it's just build confidence, make them believe that they can win and score goals, and just get them going again. And then we've got a big run of fixtures, at the end of the month. So hopefully he's prepared them well for that as well at that point. But overall, I'm really happy that we got Tuchel. Really upset that we had to sack Lampard, and undoubtedly he'll be back at Chelsea in the near future. But that's basically that's it, right? We're gonna have to wait until we have a few positive results or negative results to see how things are going.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to the games now and seeing how they go.
Yeah, because it's going to be an interesting few weeks ahead.
It's been a mixture of holidays and exam time for me.
I know. But, Chelsea, bro.
Yeah, I know. All right.
Cool. Nice one. I'll catch you next time.
Yeah, catch you next time.
Safe.